Polynesia has a gift to offer the world, and it aligns very closely, I think, with the work that you're doing and what other people are sensing about finding life in community that's more authentic, that's more aligned to who we are biologically, spiritually, that is more fulfilling and rewarding than what the modern world is offering us. And so it's refreshing.
Yeah.
I mean, Tahiti is, it's still about 70% Polynesian. And there are many places in French Polynesia. I mean, this area is the size of continental Europe. I mean, it's 150 atolls and islands spread across
Oh,
an area the
wow.
size of continental Europe, and only 300,000 people live in that space. And there are many villages here where life has just remained almost untouched for modernity. They may have smartphones, but they still live in simple homes by the beach and subside off the land and the ocean, and just live in harmony with the world. And
Mm.
it's beautiful and it's inspiring.
Yeah. What is it that you see within that harmony? Like, what is it about the lifestyle? I mean, one can imagine, living by the beach in Tahiti will slow down and, bring joy to almost anyone,
Mhm.
you could say. But seeing that culture intact, like, how do
Yeah.
we, when you experience that, when you come back to the States, is it almost like culture shock in a way?
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah. It's anytime, not just the U.S. Anytime you kind of leave here and you step back into the modern world, quote unquote, it takes a bit of adjusting to get used to it. And I think as I've sort of pondered it, the in the West we're raised with this sort of value of success, right? It's like in the West, to be a good individual, to be a good member of society, you do that by succeeding. You better the opportunities for your children, for those around you, and so you're conditioned from childhood to succeed and to achieve. Um, but in Tahitian culture, it's different. And when you live on an island that's a very delicate ecosystem, and it's very easy to overuse your resources and then end up in famine. And so their entire cultural system, their sort of core cultural values and success, it's harmony. They want to live in harmony with their land, with their community, with their ancestors, with their gods. Um, and so where we would feel stressed out because, oh, we're not making enough money, or we're not, achieving enough in life, or checking off the boxes of what that success picture looks like, they would feel stressed out if their lives are disharmonious, if they've somehow fallen out of harmony with the land and with the spirit, the cosmos. So for them, it's all that. It's all just harmony.
Yeah. I feel like our culture, and I'll just say American culture that I was raised in, has normalized disharmony. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, wake up, jolt yourself alive, hurry up and get to your thing, like sit in traffic, like the normalization of being in a dysregulated system.
Hustle porn, right? It's like
Yeah.
go, 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 and yeah, absolutely. And it's just a constant state of tension and conflict that drives, Western civilization, right? Because if you're not in conflict, you're not growing. Yeah. So if you're not in conflict, if you're not in constant tension, then there must be something wrong, because you're not growing, right? Because growth happens through tension. But that sort of growth drive comes from the ego. It's that ego survival mechanism that fuels the drive for growth. Um, Whereas harmony is different. Harmony starts from the place of wholeness. You're already whole. You're already um, pure. It doesn't start from the place of shame. It starts from the place of purity. And so it's more about protecting that and ensuring that you you don't fall out of step with who you are. And who you are is not just you as a nuclear individual. Who you are is you as part of a bigger whole, right? So it's about knowing your place and where you fit within the whole. So that creates just a completely different way of looking at the world and thinking about the world. Um, it's beautiful. It's inspiring to see that and to see people that live like that. Um, but also sad as well when you see the clash of that, right? Because you still see the Western influence here, and I think that creates a bit of friction between, young people who are sort of trying to find their way to fit.
Yeah, because harmony is such a beautiful picture, and the idea that we're all whole. But once you mix in capitalism, and specifically debt and interest on that debt into a system, I feel like it's very hard to again regulate from that perspective. So even I just want to throw this in there. Even at Sacred Sons, we are very good at creating harmony in a rites of passage style experience for 4 days, where we're all equal and we're all just humans. Yet on Monday we go back into our lives, into our homes, into that traffic, right? And so,
Right.
Is there a bridge? Is there a bridge between what we see as capitalism, or is there another way, like to promote harmony while we do have the problems and the opportunities of currency?
That's a really good challenge, because I think there is. I think, it's going to sound a little bit trite, but I'll maybe unpack it a little bit. But I think it is really about moving in abundance. People speak about that a lot, but I think it is about moving from a place of being working out of ego versus, moving out of ego and working into a place of wholeness connected with your true identity. That is what allows you to be in the world and not of the world, so to speak. And to be able to work within that system without being, lost in it. And community helps, because that's one of the challenges with the modern world, is that you are so isolated. And, it's this idea that we have of the sort of nuclear family is a relatively recent invention. Tribal culture didn't have this concept of the nuclear family. Everyone belonged to everyone else. You were a tribal family. You weren't a nuclear family. And what that meant for the lived experience of people in that tribal community was just dramatically different. Think about how isolating the nuclear family is, right? Let's get to sort of the sort of postmodern, right? If we just get to the sort of modern age, right, which was when, 50s, 60s, you had men going off into work in the factories, you had women being the homemakers, right? And men were slaving away to bring food home for the family. Women were home very isolated, trying to raise his families on their own. And we're all social creatures, but women especially need that sort of social fabric around them. And yet they find themselves isolated in a home on their own. And so, in the tribal communities, you didn't have that. You had, the men together would go out, and you weren't going off to work with people who were, basically trying to, where it was a competition, to fight for the top. You were going off to work with your brothers, right? You were all in arms together. Yeah. So you were working together as a collective, and this was your family, right? That you were working with. And the women weren't sitting at home isolated, doing nothing, waiting for the husbands to come back. They were running the civil side of the community together, while their husbands were away hunting or whatever. And so they weren't isolated. They were sharing to the sisterhood together of running the civil side of their community. It wasn't just raising children, but it was just the whole, everything that went together with running that community. And it was much more natural to how we live.
To how we thrive, right? Because I think when you mentioned the word, like, let's throw the word scarcity out there. There's a lot
Yeah.
of folks in scarcity right now. The wave of inflation post COVID has hit the shores, and it's tough. It's really
Yeah.
tough for a lot of people. And when that happens, when the scarcity mindset gets involved, I think that's what further isolates us,
Absolutely. And it
potentially.
turns us against each other, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we're fighting against each other for limited resources. That's the scarcity mindset. That's the survival mindset, which is the ego mindset, right?
And that's the big lie. It's the big lie
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
exists.
Yeah, absolutely. Even scarcity in and of itself shouldn't exist on this planet with the resources that we have.